Hello, and welcome to Google SecOps EDU. Today we'll be walking through the process of linking Okta as the identity provider for your SecOps platform. This integration involves configuring a custom SAML application in Okta and building a workforce identity federation in Google Cloud. Before we begin, ensure you have the proper permissions to perform these steps, and your Google Cloud project is bound to your SecOps tenant. Most importantly, decide on your Workforce Pool and Provider IDs now. These are permanent and must be identical when configuring in both your Okta and Google Cloud consoles. Another important point before we start is that it's a best practice to use groups rather than individual user accounts in Okta for access management to your Google SecOps tenant. If not already created, it's advisable to create groups in Okta that match the default SecOps roles listed here. You can create groups in Okta by navigating to Directory, Groups, then Add Group. Ensure that group names are created using underscores instead of spaces. Let's begin the configuration in the Okta dashboard. To establish a secure connection with SecOps, we need to build a custom SAML 2.0 integration. This serves as the primary bridge that allows Okta to securely hand off authenticated users to the Google Cloud environment. In the navigation panel, click the Applications toggle, then click Applications. On the Applications page, click Create App Integration. Select SAML 2.0, then click Next. Within the General Settings tab, enter an app name. Then click Next. Now we enter the core of the configuration, the technical handshake. This is where we tell Okta exactly where to send your authentication data. You'll be using the Workforce Pool ID and the Workforce Provider ID you decided on earlier. Use these specific URLs, replacing the placeholders with your specific Pool ID and Provider ID values. In this instance, I'll use Okta-SecOpsBid-Pool for my Pool ID, and Okta-SecOpsBid-Provider for my Provider ID. Make sure to take note of them, as we'll use these IDs later when configuring the Workforce Identity Federation in the Google Cloud Console. They will need to match exactly in Okta and in the Google Cloud Console. If there's even a slight mismatch, the connection will fail. Within the Configure SAML tab, enter the single sign-on URL. Then enter the audience URI SP entity ID. Select email address for the name ID format. For the application username, select email. Scroll down and click Next. In the Feedback tab, check This is an internal app that we have created, then click Finish. Okta needs to explicitly pass the identity attributes so SecOps knows who the user is and what groups they belong to. We will map these with attribute statements. From the Sign-On tab, scroll down to the attribute statements, then click the Show Legacy Configuration toggle. Click the Edit link to enter the following profile attribute statements. To add additional profile attribute statements, click Add Another. Under the Group attribute statements, add a name and filter value that matches your configured groups in the Okta directory. As an example, I'll use Groups for name and filter for items that contain Chronicle_SecOps. Click Save. Scroll up and copy the metadata URL. Paste the metadata URL into a new browser window. Copy and paste the data into a plain text editor, then save it as an XML file. We'll use this later when we switch to the Google Cloud Console for Workforce Identity Federation configuration. Click the Assignments tab. Click the Assign button, then click Assign to Groups. Select the applicable groups, then click Done. We've completed the Okta portion of the configuration. With the Okta side ready, we'll move into the Google Cloud Console. This is where the bridge is anchored on the Google side. We'll use the exact same workforce pool and provider ID names we used earlier in Okta to complete this section. Click the hamburger menu in the top left corner. Hover over IAM and Admin, then click Workforce Identity Federation. On the Workforce Identity Pools page, click Create Pool. Enter your Workforce Identity Federation pool name or ID. Add a description if desired. Click Next. In the Add a Provider to Pool section, click the Select a Provider Vendor dropdown. Then select Okta as the provider. Select SAML as the authentication protocol. Enter your workforce provider name or ID. Add a description if desired. Upload the metadata XML file you downloaded from Okta. Click Continue. Review the entity ID and redirect URI values and click Continue. In attribute mapping, map these exactly. Click Add Mapping when necessary to add additional attribute mapping. Click Submit. The bridge is built, but we still need to grant permissions using Identity and Access Management, or IAM, so that users can sign in to Google SecOps. When configuring IAM roles in the Workforce Identity Federation, the guidance is to add principals for all necessary groups or individual users who require access to the SecOps environment. This demonstration will show you how to grant access to a group. Once done, you'll need to select your provider in your SSO settings. In the left navigation panel, click IAM. In the View by Principals tab, click Grant Access. Under Add Principals, paste the group value for each group and role combination. You'll replace the placeholders in this exact principal set URL with your specific Workforce Pool ID and Group ID values. In this instance, I'll use Chronicle_SecOps_admins as my group ID. Remember, SAML is case sensitive, so you must match the case perfectly between Okta and Google Cloud. Under Assign Roles, click the Role dropdown. Select or search for an applicable Chronicle API role. You can add multiple roles to an Okta group or a user. Click Save. Repeat these steps as necessary for every group that you want to grant access. If your Okta group names include a space, refer to the Grant a Role to enable sign-in to Google Security Operations section within the Configure a Third-Party Identity Provider documentation. There's a crucial final step that must be completed. You will not be able to log in with Workforce Identity Federation until this step is completed. Click the hamburger menu in the top left corner. Hover over Security, then select Google SecOps. Click the Single Sign-On tab, then select Workforce Identity Federation. From the list of available providers, select the Workforce Identity Federation provider you just created. Click Save. After successful configuration, your Okta groups will be displayed in the settings of your SecOps tenant under your profile in the IDP group section. If you see no groups assigned, then this could mean that you have no IDP groups configured, or you may have a configuration issue relating to your IDP groups in Okta or Workforce Identity Federation. Thanks for watching. For an in-depth explanation of this process, visit the Configure a Third-Party Identity Provider guide within the Google Security Operations documentation, linked in the description below.